Welcome to the Consumer Packaged Goods Leadership Session. This is RET202. I'm David Ahuja. I'm the Worldwide Business Development Leader for AWS's Consumer Packaged Goods industry. And what that means is I get to work with all of you to listen to your aspirations, your visions, your plans for digital transformation, and be the voice back into AWS to help develop solutions that will enable you to accelerate your visions, your goals. Today, I'm not your presenter. I'm just your host. We've got two presenters, Kim Houchins from Amazon.com and Vince Perfetti from Nu Skin. And we thank them, both of our customers, for being here today. They will share with you two pretty cool stories in terms of digital transformation, or I would prefer to say business transformation. And you'll hear the theme of what's different in terms of not just talking about the technology, but talking about the consumer and talking about the transformation that the company is making. I will steal just a few minutes. I've got 3 slides because I want to tell you about AWS's CPG industry vertical and what that really means. First of all, I joined the company about a year ago. My background is CPG. I spent 23 years at Procter & Gamble. I spent 4 years at Walmart. So I understand the complexity for you CPGers of CPG and retail in that very important intersection. What I want to do is just tell you a little bit about, part of my job is listening, as I said, but telling you what I'm hearing in terms of the themes from CPG customers. So as I meet with you, and I'm going to say large and small CPGs, there's some common themes that I hear throughout. First and foremost is this sense of moving from a brand-centric to a consumer-centric company. And Vince will touch on that a little bit. This is really important shift in the industry as consumer CPG companies focus on what do they need to start doing to look at the consumer differently, because they don't typically own the relationship. As you know, that relationship happens in the retail store, but more and more we're seeing them wanting to make sure they understand the consumer in a very different way. Second is this idea of innovation. Differentiation is happening, as you well know in your industry, through innovation. However, a 12 to 18-month innovation life cycle is just not good enough anymore. And so every CPG is looking for ways to shorten that life cycle. And you probably know this well, that's not an easy thing to do. Third is winning in the offline channel, or on the online channel, e-commerce. And you may say this is pretty obvious, but if you look at the growth in the industry, the CPG industry, good news is it's growing again, but the industry overall is doing about 2 to 3%. For the most part, most of the large, and for sure the mid and small size CPGs, have growth in double digits in their e-commerce. So they're all looking for ways to double down on their e-commerce business in a very different way than we've seen in the past. So these are just 3 themes that we see. What that means for us, from an AWS standpoint, for my team is, as we listen, our job is to work back and say, what do we do to enable? And there's a framework that I like to use, I call it Make, Move, Market, the 3 M's. CPG companies are asking us to help them make products, move products, and market products. One key area that we're spending a lot of time is in the area of manufacturing, helping these companies modernize old technology, leveraging IoT on those old, but also new and pulling data off new machinery in the factory for automation and optimization. Second is in the area of supply chain. And this is probably one of the more complex challenges for CPGs right now because, as I mentioned, they've been doing e-commerce forever, but the channel of e-commerce as it grows will not work on the old traditional brick-and-mortar distribution and network processes. So they're reinventing or creating, how do I deliver, how do I manage from the farm to the table in the new way for both brick-and-mortar, which is still huge and critically important, but also with the new e-commerce. And then third, on the consumer side, we're helping, and a lot of questions we're getting because If you think of Amazon and our heritage of Amazon, innovating in the space of understanding the customer intimately and being able to create personalized experiences. If you've spent any time in our AI/ML sessions today, you probably have heard about Amazon Personalize as one of the capabilities. What we're trying to do from a CPG standpoint is helping these customers with both the pre-buy, so think search and the experience the consumer gets before they purchase a product, to the buy, the e-commerce process, to the post. So Amazon Connect being an example of that. All the rich data that's coming in from consumers calling into contact centers as an example. And then lastly, we're spending a lot of time with every customer, starting the conversation on all three of those things with data. And you know this, it's the fundamental enabler to all of our AI and ML work that we're doing. Right data at the right time is critical. Having data for companies that are thinking the digital transformation where it's no longer just manual overrides, but embedding the ML models into the processes requires a very different data platform. So what we call the Intelligent Insights platform is working backwards from the business problem to determine what is the data you need to solve for those business problems. So begin with the problem, work backwards to the insights, work backwards to the data, build a platform purpose-built for that insights or for that domain problem space. So these are just the 4 key areas that our industry vertical is focusing on. You'll hear a little bit from Vince and Kim on just different elements of these coming to life. The last thing I want to leave you with is what we call an intelligent enterprise. Companies that are doing this really, really well are companies that are not only implementing the technology, but are thinking their entire business transformation. They have the leadership, sponsorship from the top, and enabling much more of an embedded AI/ML process throughout the manufacturing process, throughout the supply chain process, and the consumer marketing processes. So just wanted to give you a little sense of what we're doing in AWS. We're just getting started in CPG. As I said, we've stood up this vertical about a year ago. Lots more to come. At this point, what I'd love to do is turn it over to our 2 customer guests to share their stories. I'll begin with Vince Perfetti. Vince?
Thanks, David. And thanks for the opportunity to be here today and speak with you. I'm going to take just a brief period to go over my background a bit. I joined Nu Skin as the Chief Transformation Officer, not Chief Technology or Chief Information Officer, but a Transformation Officer back in May of this year, and I was on assignment having worked at AWS in ProServe Global Advisory Function. Before that, I was at GE helping them migrate to the cloud and developed a cloud organization for all 11 Tier 1 businesses, helping them transform, and that was a multi-hybrid cloud environment. Before that, I was with Dow Jones, yet another AWS customer, as part of the News Corp migration, and that was heavy media. So I have extensive knowledge in a lot of different verticals, taking them to the cloud. And you'll see in a little bit, I've taken the experience of having failed in many cloud migrations and not leveraging many of the tool sets that cloud providers are offering. And that's where we've learned, and I've implemented this today at Nu Skin. For those of you who are not familiar with Nu Skin, it started in the 1980s. There were 3 original founders. It's a multi-level marketing company and direct selling. While they began in the 1980s, they went public in 1995, and they have a commitment to, as you could say, sustainability and producing quality wellness and nutrition products. It operates globally, and it's an industry leader in the MLM space. And the next slide shows, and I apologize, I'm not great with slides, as is typical Amazonian. That'll never come out of my culture. We have more than 1.2 million customers in Nu Skin across the globe. We operate in 50 different markets. And one of the things that I'm really proud of as a Nu Skinner is that we have more than 75 in-house scientists. It means that the products that we're producing are backed by patented technology, which cannot be acclaimed by many other MLMs or direct selling organizations. Last year, we received Euromonitor's #1 beauty device system brand. That's a highly acclaimed status that only Nu Skin holds, and we offer over 200 products in beauty and wellness. So pretty sizable company, 61,000 sales leaders. So one of the interesting things with multi-level marketing and Nu Skin specifically is that we like to focus on the business opportunity. So while there is a heavy importance placed on the end consumer product, the channel and providing opportunity for everyone is also very important. The mission statement is to be a force for good throughout the world by empowering people to improve lives through business opportunity, innovative products, and an enriching and uplifting culture. So when I started there, I thought, we're going to start with technology. We have to. But as many of you probably know, starting with technology has a slew of challenges with it. And I've listed about a dozen or so here, right? You have to address all of these. You have to have a cloud strategy. You have to create on-demand continuous deployment environment. What about governance and compliance? Nu Skin operates across the globe, China, Southeast Asia, Europe. And then also to create operational effectiveness. Part of the reputation of any company, CPG or not, is in the brand. And your reliability and stability in the products and the quality of the products you produce is paramount to maintaining that brand image. And technology is the underpinnings of that. So what we set out to do initially, and this is all building and leading, as you'll see, to driving a consumer-centric organization. Most CPGs in the room can attest to the fact that you were probably driven around the brand of an individual product. And in fact, Nu Skin was very similar to that, focusing on 3 Ps: platform, products, and the programs. That combination was the secret sauce to our competitive advantage. From a technology perspective, I decided to leverage the cloud adoption framework. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with that framework. It's been built across the last 9 years that I've been working with Amazon, and as both a customer and an employee, and now a customer again. And I can tell you, I suffered every single failed initiative on the 6 perspectives of this framework. The framework is grounded in 6 different perspectives. 3 are technical, 3 are non-technical. And for a reason. If you only implement the 3 technical parts of any cloud migration, you will not be leveraging the full capacity of the transformative nature of disrupting your vertical that the cloud offers. The 3 technical are security, operations, and infrastructure, which I'm sure everyone in the room who has a technology background is very well versed in that. And we could have a deep discussion on the benefits and detriments of databases and Redshift over some other S3 Glacier or something else, right? The important part is running these initiatives in parallel with the business, governance, and people, which are the 3 non-technical perspectives of the CAF. And if you do a deeper dive in the CAF, you'll actually see initiatives that you can take your organization through to help transform them into a consumer-focused organization. It's not just about the data. And I like to think of it, and we'll get to it in a little bit about the data lake we're creating, but it's about how you use the data and what data. And that governs the maturity of your organization as you go down the road of improving a customer experience. So we took the technology framework, or the CAF, which I like to call the business framework today, and then we put down a foundation of 3 tenets. And the tenets are, how do we operate as a global organization while providing each individual market around the world the opportunity and the freedom to be an agile organization, but yet we're all still part of one global organization. And that's through these 3 tenets. Strategically, we're customer first. Technologically, we're cloud first. And foundationally, we're security always. Anyone who's worked with AWS knows that those principles and those tenets resonate pretty closely with Amazon, and we believe the same approach should be taken. Security is absolutely paramount as you look more and more towards data, collecting data, and effectively managing data. Cloud first, because if you're not cloud first, you're living in the last century. And I have a slide, next slide, that's actually going to show and prove it. And then last but not least is customer first, and all of it is about experience. It's not just enough to say that you're focusing on the customer, you have to focus on the customer's experience. So you've probably seen these 4 dimensions as you try to go to your C-suite or the board level conversation and reflect upon the benefits of leveraging cloud compute. I'm not going to go over each one, but suffice it to say, this year alone, we were able to migrate, lift and shift with some well-architected applications into the cloud in just 7 months, 2 months ahead of schedule, with you see the 40% reduction in total cost of ownership and the operational efficiencies in terms of our stability. What I do want you to focus on, though, is the business agility, because that's the most important. If I showed you the slide 5 years ago, this would have been like a game changer. This would have been like, wow, you're going to the cloud. Oh, that's awesome. You're going to reap all these benefits and TCO and shutting data centers down. Now, I mean, it's like, so what, right? Like, let do it already, right? And by the way, I don't want anything to fail. And by the way, I want 0 downtime. And if you're going to shut the data center, I don't care about the local appliances that you need to keep. They need to be up and running because we can't afford to have those down either. Oh, and by the way, I have campaigns for all my products in Brussels as well as in Singapore, so you can't bring the systems down, right? Constantly raising the bar and the expectations of your tech stack. And that's why I'm saying if you're still not in the cloud, you're losing an opportunity. The last part, though, is the business agility. So we talk about the customer experience. One of the things that we did, again, in following the CAF model, we partnered with neighbors just up the street from us in Provo. We were very happy. Qualtrics. I'm not sure if you should all probably be familiar with Qualtrics. Leading the way, cutting edge with surveys and surveying consumer sentiment. They presented this to us to show the disparity between where executives feel they're providing a superior service through either a product and what customers are actually saying they feel. That's huge. That's huge. That means what's going on in the large enterprises, people are living in fantasy land. Do many of you not agree with this? Does this resonate with your companies and what you see? I think there's very few companies who probably have a much narrower gap between what the exec leadership team feels they're providing and what their customers are actually experiencing. So what we did in working with Qualtrics, there's many different data points, and I said that there's different levels of maturity with data. In the multi-level marketing vertical, I've come to find that a lot of people use intuition. It's based upon a lot of human interaction and relationship building for the distributors. And that intuition, surprisingly, is pretty good. It's actually right. And I'm sure that you see in CPGs, people who've been doing it for 30 or so years, probably pretty right. The digital transformation is definitely impacting them, but there's knowledge there, knowledge that shouldn't be just dismissed or marginalized. And what I'm getting at is there's different types of data. There's data through intuition. Then there's people saying, I want to actually use data points like analytics or sentiment or inventory or COGS. Some data points that we're going to look at to make decisions. And then there's a deeper understanding of which data points to actually look at to make decisions. That's the scale of maturity. And what we're looking to do is actually jump to the very end. And when we think about maturity in making decisions and what data points, there are 2 different categories of data that we're looking at. One is operational data, and the other is experiential data. And the experiential data is great, but by itself, sort of useless. Operational data is great, but by itself is sort of meaningless. And I say meaningless. Tons of businesses run on this data. There's nothing wrong with it. What I'm saying is the distinction in the bar raiser here is the combination of the 2. And that's the secret sauce for any one of your companies. It's your executives choosing the right what they deem as the right data sources to come up with their special fit. And by fit, I mean experience. I'm an engineer by trade, by the way, so that building of the design of the path is something that I would adamantly be driving, and when people are walking on the grass, circumventing it, it would get me really annoyed. Had I been a better engineer, I probably would have combined the two and created a brick path that was more expedient so that people could actually leverage a stable walking surface. We went a step further, and we started to look at the 5 touch points. Again, in the world of CPG, this should be old hat. You can call it what you want. These are different categories. When you look at awareness, purchase, and use, and then support and repurchase, what our digital transformation has actually done is change the mechanisms for each one of those channels. And what we did was we've categorized different experiences by peaks and pits along each one of those categories. Now, if I were up here talking to you from Etsy or from Netflix, I'd have 1,300 or 1,400 different customer personas that I would put through this chain or this succession. What we've found, and if you look at the psychology of consumer behavior, it's almost not even whether it's a peak or a pit, it's the expectations of your customers. It's what they've come to expect. And psychology will tell you that if you meet their expectations or fall just around what is expected, it's an unmemorable experience, meaning it just happened. The times that it actually becomes a memorable experience that can lead to stickiness, and that's what you're looking for in terms of brand loyalty, is when you go beyond the expected level of interaction. By the way, that's both good and bad. Any of you traveling in airports over this holiday weekend from a snowy state? I can tell you I did. And I'm sure you've probably experienced maybe one of those pits because it was far worse than you had ever expected the experience to be. And by the way, there's a lot of tolerance in between, which are forgettable moments. What you want to do, what we want to do at Nu Skin, is make each one of those moments peaks in each one of those customer interactions, which means we are continually raising the bar on everything we do with our 3 customer segments. We don't have 1,400 like Netflix. We plan to get there, but we want to do it in a very intentional fashion. We have distributors, consumers, and employees. Yes, employees. Employees need to factor into your customer journey mapping. Those are just as critical. And again, all of this is run by data. It's backed by data. The more data, and then the more intentional data discussions you have, the better it is. Whether it's a social media campaign and how it's impacting a new limited time offer in a certain region of the world. So 2 of the things of where we've leveraged AWS, and again, this is a long road for us to actually complete this transformation, right? It's part transforming in terms of a binary change, and it's part evolutionary, right? You need to inculcate it into the culture. Just had a very interesting conversation with Raju, who runs some of the primary primitive services here at AWS, and we were talking about the importance of leadership and the dichotomy of 2 different groups and how you actually set off to create something net new and the trade-offs between spinning up a brand new team with taking the legacy team and trying to build some new services. It sort of mirrors the transition that you're going to go through with leveraging data with your leadership team if they're not accustomed to it. So we've used recognition, Amazon recognition, just by a show of hands. How many people know recognition? I do believe it's part of the technology in the Go store, but don't hold me to it. We outfitted a couple of robots. We have, once every 2 years, we have this one, it's called a live event, where thousands, maybe not the size of reInvent, but close to it, we have thousands of our distributors descend upon Provo, Utah, and we have a big celebration for new product launches, building energy, and then also socializing new promotions and campaigns that are in the upcoming year or 2. This year we had it, and on campus we had robots that were outfitted with cameras, I think they were deep lens cameras, running recognition so that our distributors could walk up to it, and we had photos of our distributors, and they would actually recognize who the distributor was and greet them in their native tongue. And that's something we couldn't do with every language, but that's part of it. And then think about that with the robot then taking them through the campus to the different products and affording them an opportunity through VR to actually engage with the product, and then printing out their badge. Again, when you think about customarity, you say, that's okay. But think back to how you registered here at reInvent. Did the robot greet you? Was there a camera that came up to you and said, hey, John, how are you? Good to see you again. Here's your registration badge. Go get your swag right over there. That would have been pretty cool. And that goes back to the mapping of the experiences, right? And it's those things that actually lead to improving the customer experience overall and maintaining the stickiness with consumers. The other is forecast. And we can go on and on about this. How many people know forecast? It's a relatively newer service. We've leveraged this on our back-end data to improve our inventory and our supply chain. There are millions of dollars lost in product production every year through inventory mismanagement, overstock, outstock, when you think about missing the expectations of your customers. We've just started using forecast. I think I have a slide later on that shows in the 4 months rolling that we're actually, forecast is actually narrowly coming down to within a couple of percentage points difference than our legacy market leads who would traditionally provide inventory forecasts. So those are just two of the products that we're leveraging on AWS out of the gate. And then just to give you a little bit of background behind it, these are the various data sources. And by no means, I was sort of reticent to put this up. The important part of this slide is the high-level view of the data lake, right? If you look at it, and I'm sure a lot of you have engaged in this, if you look at the data lake, the important part is automating the ingestion points, so regardless of the fidelity of the data coming in, whether it's from your ERP, whether it's through social channels, and you're going to do some social sentiment analysis before you actually ingest it with metadata, right? Or it's just straight up Google Analytics on a website. The data lake's the important part of the management of that data. And what it does is, that's on the production side. On the consuming side, you've actually resolved all of those issues that I showed on the earlier slide around the cloud challenges, or just about. When you think about security, efficiency of operations, how it gets distributed, making sure that you have governance and compliance with data, where it should be shown, where it shouldn't be shown, and the like. And then as you can see, one of the consumers of that would be Amazon Forecast, and then what it affords you on the trailing end of that. Hopefully and again, this is something where when you think about the data sources, everybody's got this in a CPG. You have it. The fidelity may not be there, but these are important parts that I think are low-hanging fruit. I think as you become more customer-centric, as I was talking about the maturity of the right data sets and combining them, this becomes foundational to what you're doing, and then you add in more data sets as needed, and as the leadership team wants to begin to predict what's going to be relevant for your business. This was the last slide, the rolling 4 months. We did a little robot, it's really cute, as compared to the Bunyan, which is the personal people doing forecasting. I intend, or I expect, these two lines to flip in the next 3 to 4 months. And again, it's not in isolation. All of this is to improve upon the customer experience, understanding what the expectations are, resetting their expectations on interaction with Nu Skin, and then raising the bar beyond that. That's my last slide. I will turn it over to Kim.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We've all felt that excitement when your Amazon order arrives. It might be an espresso maker for your kitchen, a surprise birthday gift for your daughter, or a dog bed for Fido. No matter what you ordered, how it's packaged is key to a great experience. Today, I'm excited to share how we've partnered with the AWS Professional Services to build a machine learning solution powered by native AWS and Amazon SageMaker to reduce packaging waste while keeping the customer experience bar high. When our packaging isn't right, our customers tell us all about it. They call customer service, they post on social media, they return what's disappointed them. This Instagram post in the center here of a human in a human-sized box keeps me up at night. And many of our CPEX team as well, our customer packaging experience team. Even when we deliver the product undamaged, if the package is excessive, we've diluted the customer experience. Wasteful packaging is inconvenient at best and shameful to many of our customers at worst. I lead the customer packaging experience team, one of the many teams working on sustainability at Amazon. What makes our job really fun and hard is Amazon's scale. There are hundreds of millions of different products and more than 10 billion shipments a year. This requires us to innovate on a scale that's completely different from traditional brick and mortar retail. It takes a surprising range of skill sets, some that you would expect like package engineering or industrial design. I'm going to see whether the speaker, is there something you can do to eliminate the going-ons here? There we go. There's hundreds of millions of different products and more than 10 billion shipments a year, and the innovation at scale is really different. And you're looking at our fulfillment center and our process and just get a sense of the scale of just one of our hundreds of facilities. It takes a surprising range of skill sets, some that you would expect, like package engineering or industrial design, and some that you might not, like physics, data science, and machine learning. No engineering team could be big enough or fast enough to match each of the hundreds of millions of products with the most optimal packaging. We were relegated to shipping most everything in a box, putting our most protective packaging on everything, which is considerably wasteful. We had to invent with machine learning. In 2016, 69% of our shipments were in boxes, and some simple product category rules allowed soft lines like clothing to go out in poly bags. To reduce waste, we wanted to shift our hundreds of millions of products into padded mailers, poly bags, or paper bags, and wherever possible, into zero packaging. We created a machine learning algorithm that learned the fragility of each product and assigns a pack type that provides the necessary protection, differentiating our product catalog into good for shipping in a mailer or good for shipping with zero packaging. As you can see, our ML tools have significantly affected our packaging mix over the past few years, reducing our use of boxes by 32%. By 2020, we're forecasting that more than half of our shipments will be in mailers. Some people have asked me, why are mailers a more sustainable choice than boxes? It turns out a mailer is 75% lighter than its similarly sized box, and the mailer will conform around a product, taking up 40% less space than a box during shipping. That's a lot less trucks on the road. But not every product should be shipped in a mailer. Some products, like light bulbs, for example, need more protection than our best mailer can provide. So how do we train our ML and with what can safely ship in a mailer and arrive undamaged on our customer's doorstep? And how do we do it at Amazon's scale? When our customer places an order, the Amazon fulfillment software selects packaging from hundreds of unique package types and sizes. To train our initial packaging optimization model, we experimented with product categories like action figures, which are typically not fragile. And we can turn off the rules that assign action figures to a box and reassign them to ship in padded mailers. But it turns out not all action figures should ship in mailers. Funko Pops, another nightmare for the head of packaging. Who knew that these $12 toys would become a pop cultural obsession? People proudly display these $12 Funko Pop collections inside their thin paperboard boxes. The original packaging really, really matters to these customers. We quickly found out what happens when Wonder Woman Funko Pop shipped in a mailer. Our customers lit us up on social media, and our call center commiserated with hundreds of customers. Our packaging optimization model quickly caught the issue and reverted the packaging for Wonder Woman Funko Pop back to a box. While the initial model was able to upgrade packaging when there's sufficient data, like hundreds of disappointed customers holding smashed Wonder Women, it was not effective at protecting against poor customer experience at scale. How would we prevent damage on products customers haven't bought yet? Like Deadpool Bob Ross. He's not hot yet, and as far as I can tell, he may never be as hot as Wonder Woman. Before our ML model, he was put in a padded mailer to prevent a poor experience for the very few customers who are about to order a Deadpool Bob Ross. We needed ML tools and data. And we have lots and lots of data. 2 20-node, 320 terabyte extra large Redshift clusters to be exact. And we can use those to make the optimal packaging decision. Damage rate, customer reviews, social media posts, return data, concessions, drop test data, photos of products, just to name a few that we have to build out our database. We had all of this data, but we needed help to drive optimization at scale. Enter AWS ProServe. We supplemented our own engineering team with AWS scientists and cloud solution architects to work alongside of us. With their help, we designed a system our ML model would be hosted on and created a data pipeline. Using AWS, these terabytes of data are cleaned, cataloged, and ready for mining, and we can analyze hundreds of millions of products, billions of customer shipments, and multiple channels of customer feedback, providing actionable insights in real time. What was really interesting was creating this orchestration layer for training, inference, and metrics, which allowed us to rapidly move ML models from development to implementation. Models are stored as training, prediction, and feature engineering scripts. All configurations for the model and jobs are stored in the DynamoDB tables for fast access. There are 2 primary methods of interacting with the API that we build. Users can securely log into a web app to configure and monitor their models and run ad hoc training or prediction jobs, or through a scheduled job. But in either case, when a new job is kicked off, a call is made to the central state machine living in step functions. Step functions then sends the model's container and code to the Amazon SageMaker, which kicks off the appropriate instance for training and prediction. Results are stored in S3 and loaded into our Redshift server for easy access. Our solution was to build a binary classification model which treated the text as a bag of words. The model outputs whether or not the item is suitable for mailers. While we tried more advanced deep learning algorithms, we achieved excellent performance using XGBoost on Amazon SageMaker. For the target labels, we used customer feedback to identify products that are shipping successfully or unsuccessfully in mailers. The ML model is primarily based on the attributes you see on the Amazon website as a shopper for any given product, the description, the weight, and dimensions. With each shipment, the ML model finds patterns that it ties to packaging type performance. Even though Funko is a shared keyword, the model learned that the Funko action figures needed to be upgraded to a box, while a Funko keychain can ship in a mailer. Built on these patterns, the model also learned that Spider-Man action figures can safely ship in a mailer. After training, the ML model naturally learns sensible patterns. For example, multi-pack products tend to be good for mailers, while ceramic mugs are bad. When we predict performance for products we don't know, the model predicted that Deadpool Bob Ross has a high probability score for needing a box upgrade, while predicting that the snowcatcher pony might ship well in a mailer. Successfully making such a significant shift away from shipping in boxes required a high degree of accuracy and confidence in our predictions. Although our culture encourages experimentation, it is balanced with customer obsession. Results from the trained model reduced the damage rate of mailer shipments by 50% compared to earlier models that used existing product category rules, making it possible for us to ship hundreds of millions of additional products in more sustainable packaging without negatively impacting our customer experience. The ML model has been very successful, and what continues to excite us all is how the ML architecture that we've built is facilitating the launch of new models in just weeks. We found a whole collection of ways we can eliminate waste. We've invented ML models that allow us to ship in nothing but a paper bag, to predict what products might leak, to finding products that could be folded into different sizes to fit into other size and smaller packages. Some of the most impactful models allow us to figure out which items don't need packaging at all, allowing us to save our most protective packaging for the products that really need it. Beyond ML, our team is developing tools that harness the power of AWS computational speed to create virtual product and packaging testing that models the rigors of e-commerce fulfillment. Using finite element models typically used in automotive and aerospace industry, we can simulate a product shipping in a padded mailer. This model has sufficient fidelity to evaluate the choice of plastics and air pressure of the bubbles on the protective properties of the packaging. Modeling stresses imparted to the product might allow us to model for products on against various packaging types options. We have modeled corrugate boxes to determine the necessary material strength, as well as to evaluate the quality of tape and seal to reduce waste across our network. Lightweighting our boxes by just 5% can deliver significant savings and waste reduction when you have over 5 billion boxes. We're starting to simulate packaging moving throughout our network, modeling conveyance and its impact, modeling the trade-offs of lightweight packaging against the efficiencies of a taller Gaylord with a higher drop height, for example, or impact of the varying speeds of conveyance. Once we can simulate the rigors of fulfillment, we can imagine these tools being available through AWS to help manufacturers model their own e-commerce packaging designs, leading to less waste and damage reduction in much shorter times. Key manufacturers have already demonstrated that breakthroughs in e-commerce packaging are possible. Using our physical test methods and working with our engineering team, Procter & Gamble has delivered some really exciting results I want to share with you.
Tide is an incredibly iconic brand. It's been around for almost 75 years, almost as long as washing in machines has been a thing for consumers. Most of us visualize products as shelf. That's just what we picture is a shelf version of a package. And I think the world we're evolving to is one where people buy things online. We worked with our partners, like Amazon, to develop a format that's uniquely suited for this new world.
We actually took a step back and we said, if we were going to start from scratch, how would we do it?
We looked at, could it be something that people pick up and pour? How does the spout need to interact? How do we actually get it into a cubed design so that it requires less space?
And so we set out to go from bottle to this box.
If we could switch everybody who buys that equivalent bottle to the EcoBox, we can save enough plastic to cover 5,000 football fields each year. It's a little bit more than 1,400 tons of plastic. It's 30% less water, but it delivers the same cleaning.
This has been designed specifically to ship in its own container, so we do quite a bit of rigorous testing.
We've been collaborating with Procter & Gamble for multiple years, and my hope is that it inspires not only other brand partners, but the entire industry to think differently about packaging and do it in a sustainable way.
The fact that it has less water, less plastic, that it needs less secondary packaging to ship it to a consumer. All these things help our customers, but also help the environment.
It's always exciting for me to see the results that are generated when we are inspired by our customer. and with wins like a 66% reduction in the size of the package while delivering the same loads as a larger bottle. These are wins our customers expect from their favorite brands, including Amazon. Another great example can be seen in the Hasbro work. This toy was shipped in original retail packaging that you'd have found on a brick and mortar shelf, along with the Amazon Overbox, and it took 6 steps to open this package, taking over 8 minutes to liberate the toy in time for the child to play. With an 81% reduction in packaging waste driven by Hasbro's reinvention of their packaging, we know we're headed in the right direction. Our customers are also taking notice. We monitor our social media, and we particularly mine for any positive feedback. As you can imagine, we get, being in packaging, lots of negative feedback. But when we get it right, and when we work hard to get it right on behalf of the customer, it looks smart and efficient. It reinforces that the brands and Amazon are customer obsessed. And to date, thousands of vendors have made the effort to understand that e-commerce packaging needs are different, and that the design has to be designed for purpose differently than that of retail packaging. Brands that have been working alongside of us are experiencing increasing star ratings, as well as reduced overall damage and cost and sustainability wins. Our customer obsession is driving us to see how far we can reduce wasteful packaging, and our team is inspired by the possibilities. And if I take you to where our goals are here, getting there will require more machine learning, the development of more engineering simulators that will allow us to evaluate new items quicker, and to support the creativity of product manufacturers worldwide to design packaging that is great for the planet and that customers love. We'll need engineering speed and agility, and AWS tools and professional services have been and will continue to be the underpinning of our success, and emboldens us to believe we can achieve our vision for the future, a future that requires engaging the industry collectively. To date, we've reduced the weight of our outbound packaging by over 25%, eliminating more than 780,000 tons of packaging material, which is an equivalent of over 1.3 billion shipping boxes, and we're just getting started together. I invite you to think about joining us in a climate pledge. Amazon recently committed to having 0 carbon across our business by 2040, a decade ahead of the Paris Climate Accord. And the packaging-related goal, equally challenging, is to have 50% of our shipments with 0 carbon by 2030. This pledge inspires us daily to think bigger, innovate faster on behalf of our customers and the environment. And some of the scientists that have worked alongside of me here for the last few years are sitting in the audience, so I'm just going to recognize Matt and Nitin, one from AWS and one from the Amazon team here in the front row. And those of you that have questions about the initiative, please find them afterwards, and thank you very much for your contribution.
Thank you, Kim. Just a couple quick wrap-ups. One thing that I should have said, I mentioned comments from our customers. Sustainability is top of mind for every single customer that we talk with. And the point that e-commerce is going to continue to grow rapidly for all of you, Kim made an interesting point that we're processing, which is we sit on probably billions of data points on good packaging, bad packaging, and how that works through the distribution of a supply chain for CPG products. What do we do with that? So thank you, Kim. Thank you, Vince. Appreciate you guys sharing your stories. Machine learning is at the core of everything that we will do in the CPG industry in AWS, but we're not going to do it alone. We have a huge partner network, and we're going to work with many of the large system integrators to build solutions that's industry specific. And I want to leave you with one last thing. We're here to help you make products more efficiently, move products in a more automated way, and market to consumers in a more smarter experience way. Make, move, market. These are the 3 tenets of our CPG industry vertical. And what you can expect us to focus on is bring all the AWS 165 services together in the right way to solve CPG industry problems. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We'll be around here to handle any questions or anything you want to dialogue with us for the next few minutes before the next session. Thank you.